UFC 273, Alexander Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie Chan Sung Jung. Welcome to our main card prediction video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris, and as usual, giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown and analysis from that betting perspective, letting you know which fights are worth the value, which fights to avoid, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action towards the end of the video as well. If you have not checked out our prelim card prediction video already, please be sure to do that. And in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. And most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. We have 13 fights in total for this UFC 273 event. We covered the first 8 fights on the prelim. So we're going to get right into it with the final 5 fights that occur on the main card. Taking a look at the first fight of the main card, we have Vinc Pichel taking on Mark Madsen. For Pichel, he beat Austin Hubbard in August. Decent overall stand-up, some feints, some stance switching. You'll get some calf kicks here and there. He likes to engage and kind of be the tougher guy in the ring. A bit unorthodox, not really the most technical on the feet, but he has heart, he can brawl. He has some pop, and again, he's very tough. He can be taken down, but he does have a bit of an underrated ground game. You know, he can scramble and get back up. He has solid submission defense, and when he's on top, we see he does have some legitimate takedown numbers to his name as well. When he's on top, he is pretty good at making positional improvements, good ground and pound as well. Mark Madsen beat Clay Guida back in August, still undefeated at 11-0. We know he's a very strong wrestler, Greco-Roman style. He's had over 3,000 wrestling matches in his lifetime. He's an Olympic silver medalist, 4-time medalist in the World Wrestling Championships as well. So we know he's a very credentialed and a very legitimate wrestler. On the feet, he seems pretty decent or pretty patient. He keeps his distance, solid movement. He's decent at coming forward and closing the distance to look for that clinch against the cage. The jab is decent. He looks to set up his takedowns really well. Cardio is a bit of a concern, though, with, of course, that wrestling ability. Doesn't really pace himself very well from a cardio perspective. I think Madsen should be pretty comfortable with Pichel's underrated ground game. Madsen's last fight was really confusing, though, because he didn't try to take the fight to the ground at all. So I'm kind of curious what he's going to do here. If the fight stays on the feet, I think it's still hard to definitively say who has the better stand-up. I think Madsen is maybe a little bit more technically sound, but I think Pichel is more dangerous on the feet. I think he can be more effective on the feet with that somewhat awkward style that he has. If Madsen tires out, Pichel definitely has that toughness to rally late, win the later part of the rounds or later part of the fight. And that could be, costly on the scorecards for Madsen. I can see, or I can assume that's probably the biggest reason why Vinc Pichel is actually a favorite in this fight, despite Mark Madsen being an undefeated fighter. But I still have to side with Madsen here. I think mainly based on how easy it is to get Pichel to the mat. Only 25% takedown defense for Vinc Pichel. I can definitely see Madsen capitalizing on that. And I think he's going to use his wrestling IQ to clearly bank 2 rounds in his name. And it's really just about whether he survives that 3rd round or not, which I think he will. So I'm looking for Marco Madsen here to stay undefeated. Interesting that he is an underdog. Doesn't surprise me given some of his cardio concerns. But I think he can IQ his way to a potentially easy victory on the scorecards. So I'm going Mark Madsen to get it done to start off this main card.
Yeah, man, when I look at these 2 fighters, man, I look at I don't think Madsen's the better guy here. I think he's I think Vinc Pichel is the better MMA fighter here. Madsen's 37 years old. Vinc Pichel, how old is he? I know he's not young as well. He's 39. Yeah, so, and again, he's been in some wars. So this is a tough fight. This is a tough fight. When I really look at these 2 fighters, it's a matter of how you see the fight going. Can the Madsen take him down for the 2 rounds, and kind of establish control, or will Pichel get up after one of the takedowns and kind of steal one of the first rounds and obviously win that third round? So it's a hard fight for me, but I'm gonna grow with Madsen in this spot. And the reason I'm going with Madsen, I think that his wrestling is he has a big advantage in the grappling, the wrestling, and Pichel does not do well against wrestlers, and so stylistically, I think that the fact that he can get taken down here pretty much at will. I gotta go with. I don't think Pinchel's gonna get this done. I gotta go with Mark Madsen because again, yeah, he doesn't do good with wrestlers, right? So he doesn't have the best takedown defense, and all it takes is 2 rounds, 10 minutes of ground control, and the fight's almost out of reach unless he gets a knockout in that third round. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Mark Madsen to get it done.
Second fight of the main card, we have Mackenzie Dern taking on Tecia Torres. This one is a pick'em for the most part. I think Torres started off as the underdog, so we're going to kind of count her as an underdog in this situation. Mackenzie Dern lost to Marina Rodriguez back in October. She's a grappling specialist. Her striking, albeit improved, it is cleaner and crisper, but she does still have kind of that brawling component to her game. Can definitely use some improvements from a technique perspective as well. We know her strength, though. We know her strength is on the ground. She's going to look for takedowns in clinch situations. She's not the best takedown artist, only a half takedown per fight at a measly 10% accuracy. But she's somebody who is, essentially going to look to take this fight to the ground by any means necessary. We know that she has a big advantage there. We know she's really good at making positional improvements, good ground and pound, really good submission threats, good submission artist. She's somebody who is pretty dangerous once that fight does get to the ground, but not the best at taking it down there. Tecia Torres, on the other hand, she beat Angela Hill back in August. She's a kickboxer. Look for her to keep it on the feet. She throws a lot of kicks, good MMA striking, really good combinations, especially lately. Very light on her feet, and she will throw, strikes and kicks from unique angles. A good lateral movement. She's good at pushing pace. She's good at pressuring her opponents with her combinations. And cardio is not a concern whatsoever. The thing with Dern is that for somebody whose specialty and advantage occurs on the ground, again, she's simply not good at landing the takedown. That said, Torres doesn't really have the greatest takedown defense at just 58%. She's been taken down 4 times during her 3-fight win streak that she's on. It's almost due to her style, right? Her style kind of puts her in unbalanced, compromised positions. I think it was against Angela Hill where she had tried like a jumping kick or a spin kick or something like that and was taken right down just due to lack of balance in that situation. So, she's somebody that has to be really careful for her strengths. That is her striking. It could potentially put her in compromised positions where she's unbalanced and she's potentially taken down. Her ability to fight a takedown is decent. Her ability to scramble is decent. But how is that going to look against a very strong grappler in Mackenzie Dern? I think she's going to be smart enough to kind of keep herself out of those compromised positions, Tecia Torres. And I think she's going to be smart enough to do that because I think she's going to have potentially that big of an advantage on the feet. So I'm going to sort of rely on the striking advantages that Tecia Torres has here. I think she can overwhelm Dern on the feet. I think her lateral movement will protect her from going to the mat. And as long as she can keep herself sort of tame enough to not be unbalanced, to not put herself in compromised positions where she's taken down due to lack of balance, I think she should be okay. So I'm going Tecia Torres here. Too much of a discrepancy on the feet. Dern is not good at taking the fight to the ground. So I think that's going to allow Tecia Torres to at least get 2 rounds out of this one. And I'm going to go with Tecia Torres as the underdog.
Yeah, this is for me. This is a tricky fight because if Dern gets it to the mat, Dern can finish the fight. She's the far better grappler, and I can see her getting the back, getting the choke, and I can see her finishing the fight. So this to me is a tough fight here to pick. But how I look at it is, if Dern doesn't get that submission in the first round, she's going to be reluctant to go for takedowns as the fight goes on. Her cardio is not the best. As you've seen in her last fight, she was going for takedowns in that first round. And then after that round, she didn't really invest much into the takedowns. And when you look at Tecia Torres's game, she moves fast. She moves around. And this fight, she's going to be fighting a fighter that's going to be a really quick striker that has a speed advantage. Man, it can go either way because, again, if Dern gets into the mat, the fight could be over. But I'm going to go with Tecia Torres. I think she's the more well-rounded fighter. And again, she just has to keep it on the feet or even just survive that first round. And then as the fight goes on, takedowns are not going to be easy. And she's going to have a big striking advantage. Like, she has a huge striking advantage in this fight. We got to remember that. So one has a big grappling advantage, but Torres has a big striking advantage. So I'm going to go with Tecia Torres. She's a really strong girl physically, keep it on the feet, and outclassing her with the striking. So yeah, Tecia Torres is my pick.
Fight number 3, and 3 very exciting fights to end this UFC 273 event here. Fight number 3 is Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. We know Gilbert Burns beat Wonderboy back in July. We know he has the improved stand-up. He likes to come forward, throw a lot of fakes, feints, level changes. Makes him really hard to read at to continue pressing forward. Has a powerful right hand. His BJJ grappling ability speaks for itself. Definitely one of the better grapplers in the UFC. 9 of his 20 wins are via submission. He can land takedowns. We see he lands 2 takedowns per fight. Very effective top control. He'll even pull guard if there's an opportunity. Going up against Khamzat, he beat Lian Li back in October. We know he has that it factor. We know he's capable on the feet. He's shown us pretty good technique, good movement, good power. And in addition to that, he's been working with Aaron Tiller, who is a striker. We got to think that there could be even more improvements to his game on the feet. We haven't exactly seen everything together. We know he has excellent takedowns. We know he has good entries, good body lock, chain wrestling, smothering wrestling as well. Excellent top control, good ground and pound. We know he's physically strong, especially for a welterweight, and seemingly has an unlimited cardio tank. I think this is, of course, a legitimate litmus test, I should say, for Khamzat Chimaev. This is reminding me a lot of Volkov versus Aspinall, the young contender with momentum versus the bona fide proven vet. And in a lot of ways, I want to go with the young contender with momentum. I think Burns' path to victory in any given fight are his takedowns and his grappling, which of course are 2 of Chimaev's strengths. We've heard everything about Chimaev's strength, and we've even witnessed it for ourselves with what he was able to do versus Jack Hermansson, a middleweight, in terms of a wrestling competition. So what I'm saying here is that I don't think Burns will be able to implement his strengths at all here. I don't think Burns is good enough on the feet to really cause any problems, of course, outside of landing a big shot. The only question mark we haven't seen with Chimaev is seeing him in deep waters. Of course, he finishes fights early. So how does he look in a round 2? How does he look in a round 3? There are still question marks around that. But with everything that we've seen from Khamzat, with how this matchup plays out, you have to go with Khamzat. Just as the physically stronger guy, he's been implementing his wrestling against everyone, and you got to think he potentially has that ability to do that against Gilbert Burns. So albeit a legitimate test, and we don't know where Khamzat is at, despite what we've seen from him, I think he's going to pass this test. I can see why he's a big favorite. I would have loved for that to have been closer to minus 300, but minus 550, Khamzat Chimaev still going to be my pick.
Yeah, this is a good litmus test for Khamzat. He's fighting a guy that literally could knock him out, could submit him, right? So I don't see Gilbert Burns getting a decision in this fight. So Gilbert Burns definitely is live. He's definitely live in this spot. He has the experience. He has the grappling, the jiu-jitsu advantage, and he might be able to catch him standing up. But what you got to factor in is the big size advantage here. Khamzat's 6'2", and this guy's talking about fighting at light heavyweight. Again, as you indicated, Harris, he's fought Jack Hermanson in a wrestling match, pretty much ragdoll him. So he's gonna be fighting a guy much lower in weight. I just see the wrestling being too much, the size being too much, and I think Chimaev gets it done here. I think he passes this test. But this fight's important in Khamzat's career. This is going to tell us where he's at, but I think he's going to pass the test here.
All right, let's move on to our co-main event. Aljamain Sterling, the champion, taking on Petr Yan. Of course, bantamweight title on the line here. I won't be long at all for this one. This is obviously a rematch. And for rematches, I like to think about what happened in the last fight versus what has happened since then. In the last fight, we know Petr Yan was winning. Basically, nothing has happened with either fighter since. There's no reason to believe that this fight won't go the exact same way as the first fight. Of course, minus the illegal knee from Petr Yan. And to that point, I expect Sterling's speed, speed, lateral movement, pressure, even potentially his takedowns. I expect that to work for him in round one, maybe in the early part of round two as well. But I expect Yan to take over, somewhere around that second half of round two and onward, with better striking, with more effective striking, with potentially takedowns of his own. I won't spend too much time here. Petr Yan should get it done in the rematch as long as he avoids that illegal knee.
Yeah, this is a tricky fight because when you really look at it, Aljamain Sterling was looking pretty good, and then he gassed out. So if he fixes cardio and banks a couple early rounds, and hangs around late for another round later in the fight, or even banking the first 3 rounds, there's definitely a path for this guy to win the fight. Again, I'm not saying he won the first 2 rounds in the last fight. He probably did. But there was a big change when his cardio went down, right? So if he fixed that cardio to go at least 4 rounds, you got to think that this guy is live in this fight. But there's no indication of that, right? So you got to go based off what you saw in the last fight. Petr Yan's the younger guy as well, so he's going to be better in the next fight versus Sterling, who's getting older. So I like Petr Yan here. After the first couple of rounds, I think he's going to get his timing down. And I think Yan's going to be motivated here. He's pissed off. This guy needs a win. He can't go to decision. A lot of times they've been ripping off these Russian fighters. I think it's because of the war that's going on right now, but a lot of these Russian fighters are getting ripped off in decisions. So hopefully Yan makes it a clear case. And I think he gets it done. So Petr Yan's my pick here.
Main event of the evening, we have Alexander Volkanovski, the featherweight champ, taking on Chan Sung Jung, the Korean zombie. Volkanovski beat Brian Ortega back in September. Champion for a reason. He's a fighter that can definitely do it all. He's one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the UFC. Going to see a lot of fakes and feints on the feet, especially early in the fight. Very good with the leg kicks, very effective with it. He's a good counter puncher as well. Great timing, great combinations. She's shown us an iron chin. We know that he began his career as a middleweight. We know that he has a rugby background. So he's a guy who's tough, right? He's a guy who can take a shot from pretty much anyone in the division. No slouch on the ground either. He lands almost 2 takedowns a fight, has a respectable 72% takedown defense, knows how to transition, scramble, get back up if he is taken down. And from what I've seen, a solid clinch game as well. And he's physically strong as well. So somebody who can kind of do a bit of everything. Chan Sung Jung, a Korean zombie, beat Dan Ige back in June. He's a striker. He's considered a kickboxer with a background in jiu-jitsu. Kind of flat-footed, almost a signature style from him. He will welcome those engaging situations as he's a really good counterpuncher. His striking speed and his striking accuracy is really good as well. He almost lull you to sleep with his style and then kind of use that striking speed to catch you off guard. Has that one-shot power on top of that to really make a difference with that striking speed. Almost lands a takedown per fight in his own right. He does have good grappling ability. Again, going back to his jiu-jitsu. If he is on top, he'll do a good job at staying on top, having decent ground and pound. And he has 77% takedown defense in his own right, which I think will be relevant for this fight. And that makes for a very interesting fight because I think this is a fight that could potentially stay on the feet. But what I will say though is, in a 5-round affair, I like Volkanovski all day here. I think he has more tools. I think we know that he can hold his own on the feet and stay at a danger. We know that he has a reliable chin if he does get touched. And I think he can take Korean Zombie down the same way that Ortega was able to take Korean Zombie down 3 times in their fight. I think the leg kick specifically is going to be a key weapon for Volkanovski. I think it's going to be there all night for Volkanovski, just based on Korean Zombie's fighting stance. That could create a lot of problems, especially if Volkanovski's landing 5, 6, 7 calf kicks in that first round. I think that could really have an impact on rounds 3, 4, and 5. I feel pretty good all around about Volkanovski here. So I won't make the prediction part of it too long. I'm going to go with Volkanovski on this one. Again, for these picks that I feel really good about, I wish they weren't as steep as they were. Minus 700 is nuts in any fight. But I feel pretty good about Alexander Volkanovski here. I think he's going to get the job done.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be better than expected. I think Korean Zombie's a live fighter in this. I think that his striking's high level, and he's not like Max Holloway, who kind of pitter patters, right, and gets a bunch of strikes on you. He's looking for that one shot on you, right? So if he lands that one shot on Volkanovski, he can definitely change the fight. But let's go right to the point. I'm going Volkanovski. The wrestling advantage is big. Again, the leg kicks. He's getting better in the striking as well, working with his team there with Adesanya and those guys, and Kai Kara France and all those guys over there in New Zealand or wherever they are. So this guy is definitely improving his striking. So I like him in the spot, the more well-rounded guy. But I wouldn't be surprised, right? But I think Volkanovski gets it done here. I think he's just too well-rounded, right? And I think his striking is going to be able to hang with Korean Zombie. But I just think he has a big advantage in the grappling.
All right, let's take it to the betting lines, looking at the main card specifically. And of course, we're going to start with an underdog pick. Options there would be Mark Madsen, Tecia Torres, Gilbert Burns, Aljamain Sterling, and Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. Which underdog do you feel has the best shot at winning?
Yeah, I like Tecia Torres.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. Although my underdog pick is going to be slightly different than that. I completely agree with Tecia Torres' pick, though. My underdog pick will be Mark Madsen. I think he has the best shot at winning as an underdog. And in terms of favorites or parlay, what are you taking a look at?
Yeah, I'll be easy here, man. Guys, everyone make your money on this, man. Volkanovski, Petr Yan, and Khamzat Chimaev. To make it simple, you might got to put a little more on it, but that's going to get it done.
I will echo that. So I'll definitely say that before we even take a look at the numbers. And to your point, this is not going to be the highest payout, but this is something that will get you your money. $100 will have a $57 profit. $250 will have a $143 profit. Does not sound impressive, but this is something that you could potentially put a slightly larger amount on if you're interested in getting a larger payday. But that should be a 3-fighter that should get the job done. But we are going to sign off on that note. We want to hear from you in the comments. How do you feel about our picks? How do you feel about that 3-fighter that we're putting together with Chimaev, Yan, and Volkanovski? Who are your underdog picks, or what specific action are you considering that you want a bit more commentary on? We're definitely more than happy to have that conversation in the comments. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks, and make sure you press the thumbs up on this video as well. For our official sign off for this UFC 273 Alexander Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie main card prediction video. He goes by Zan. I go by Harris. We are Boxing MMA Picks, and in our usual fashion, let's get this money.
Let's do it.